Since it appears you're calling back into a live show, we are reconnecting you now.
To most people listening, that's probably not a name that would, ring any bells, but he's pulling a lot of strings in the background. His main organization, Media Matters for America, they're a conservative media watchdog group. Their mission statement is to, quote, correct conservative misinformation in the media. They got Lou Dobbs off the air on CNN. They managed to get put enough pressure on Fox News to take Glenn Beck off of their network. If you look on their Wikipedia page, they brag about... hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, sorry, I got some interference. They brag on their Wikipedia page that they'll put pressure on local news people to kind of put some fear into them. They'll pressure advertisers to stop supporting newspapers if they don't like what's coming out of a certain reporter's mouth. They have a lot of influence in our public media, influencing essentially public opinion in the media that we consume. This is an organization that brings in well over $10 million a year to influence the media. As it turns out, there's 13 other organizations that share office space with Media Matters. A total of 7 nonprofits, 3 super PACs, a couple of political 527 committees, some consultants, all stuffed into this office space. These organizations are illegally coordinating with the Clinton campaign in what amounts to a full-fledged shadow campaign for Hillary Clinton that's being run by this political operative, David Brock. David Brock has an interesting story. He actually started out as a conservative journalist. He was commissioned in the 90s to essentially write a hit piece on Hillary Clinton, but the result of that was he came out being a pro-Clinton ally, had a complete switch in ideology, and by the early 2000s, he was writing a book called Confessions of a Right-Wing Hitman, completing his switch to the liberal ideology versus his original conservative mindset.
Well, I guess there wasn't enough money to be made if you were an honest conservative compared to being a lying liberal, I guess.
Yeah, it's hard to tell exactly why he made such a dramatic switch in such a short amount of time, but given the fraudulent activities that I'm uncovering that I've posted on my site, it seems to be that he's just kind of in it to, for maximum personal benefit. So that would make sense, that there's more for him to gain personally being a left-wing political hitman as opposed to a right-wing political hitman. But he... to make a really long story short, this guy and his organizations represent the worst in American politics. Their techniques are quite honestly sleazy, the way that they go attacking conservative politicians, conservative media, and just conservative mindset overall.
Well, I thought Media Matters was supposed to be an educational PAC, because it is a super PAC, but yet they're using what they have for a political agenda, and yet the IRS will not allow conservative groups or Tea Parties and 9/11 ones to become a 501c3 because they're political.
Yeah, it's really strange. Media Matters was actually uncovered around 2012. Media Matters is a nonprofit, but they held weekly strategy meetings in the White House. How is that not political? I don't understand how they can still be considered an educational, for public benefit. When they're holding weekly strategy meetings at the White House, it just doesn't make sense. They're reporting in their IRS 990s that they've spent $0 on lobbying activities. By the way, a IRS 990, Form 990, is essentially the nonprofit version of a tax return for publicly supported nonprofits. They are available for public review. So a lot of the information I uncovered was just through analysis of these publicly available tax return documents for Media Matters.
But the Justice Department is not looking into this. And, of course, with Loretta Lynch in charge of the Justice Department, you'll never see anyone look into this. Are we hopeful that should we get a Donald Trump in office that we can now turn all this information you've picked up over to a Justice Department that will prosecute this group, David Brock?
I'm hoping so, because the violations are pretty glaring. I mean, we're talking about looking at super PACs report to the Federal Election Commission, and one of these super PACs, American Bridge 21st Century, makes rent payments to Media Matters for America. Media Matters is a nonprofit; they report to the IRS, but they're not reporting that rental income. The IRS provides two specific areas on the Form 990 to report rental income, but they're not reporting it at all. They're filing fraudulent tax returns, and that's something that would take somebody 5 minutes to uncover just by cross-referencing the documentation. I remember the controversy a couple years ago with Lois Lerner and the IRS putting too much scrutiny on conservative groups.
Mm-hmm.
It's the exact opposite is happening here with the liberal groups. It doesn't seem like there's any oversight being put upon these groups. And some of these violations are so crazy that they haven't been uncovered yet. I mean, this stuff has been collecting dust for years now. They must know that, hey, there's a 0% chance that the Justice Department, the IRS, or anybody is going to be looking into our finances. As long as our balance sheets even out at the end of the year, then we're going to be good to go. It seems like they have that mentality. So I hope that if Donald Trump does get elected, that they'll take a look into this. I mean, these people have been illegally influencing public policy. That's not a left issue, a right-wing issue. That's this is a democracy issue. It's anti-democratic, the actions that they're partaking in.
Well, I've got
all these super PACs and nonprofits.
I have my co-host. She's actually from Canada. So, Kel, feel free to jump in with your questions because I see you're putting them up in the chat room. So feel free to ask Andrew any questions that you have dealing with this because you're familiar with...
Absolutely. I'm finding this absolutely amazing. So, David Brock, you mentioned Mr. Kerr that he operates over a dozen pro-Clinton organizations and this and that, and that he is also not disclosing his contributions to the what is this organization? This the Bonner Group. Like, this is amazing to me, and that nonprofits though. They are required to disclose who they give cash grants to, but they aren't required to disclose who gave them cash grants. I know they have to get money somewhere. They're supposedly a nonprofit organization, but they are not. They're not disclosing who they're giving these cash grants to. We don't know where the money's going.
No, we know where the money's going. So, like, if we start, for example, on my site, there's a great example using Media Matters 2014 tax return. So we can see that they're giving cash grants to other organizations, but we cannot see who is giving Media Matters cash grants. So it's a system of one-way verification. So if you have every IRS tax return, IRS Form 990 for 2014, and then you could work out exactly who gave money to every organization. But I spent weeks just digging through the internet. I mean, going really deep into search engines, trying to find out all the organizations that gave money to Media Matters in 2014, outside organizations. But it's hard to figure that out. But but this system of one-way verification, we can see that. For instance, Media Matters gives a $930,000 cash grant to the Franklin Education Forum, which is an organization run by David Brock in David Brock's office. In 2014, Franklin Education Forum raised a total of $994,000. So this cash grant from Media Matters was almost 94% of their total fundraising haul for the whole entire year. But that said, the Franklin Education Forum credits the Bonner Group, a professional solicitor that also operates out of the same office, for raising all those funds. And they gave the Bonner Group a $120,000 commission in 2014. So to sum up all those numbers in a much easier to understand format, David Brock wrote a check from his left hand to his right hand and then paid his solicitor a $120,000 commission for their services. That's exactly what happened in 2014.
So that's quite the money laundering operation going on there.
Yeah, and this professional solicitor, the Bonner Group, isn't properly registered in Washington, D.C., or in any of the states that they operate in. It came out in the news earlier this week with Donald Trump's foundation. The New York Attorney General said, hey, the Trump Foundation can't raise funds in New York State anymore because they're not properly registered. That's peanuts in comparison to what's happening in David Brock's organizations with the Bonner Group. They're not properly registered anywhere.
It's interesting because he's got 14 organizations that you have on your website listed at 455 Massachusetts Avenue Northwest on the 6th floor. Have you ever pulled up the floor plans of that location to see just how big this office is? And if there's actually anyone physically there, or is it just a single desk and a phone? What?
I've spent weeks trying to find floor plans. I have a computer science background, so I really spent a long time trying to find blueprints, floor plans, or something that's available on the public web, just to find out, hey, how big is this area? Where the office is located and everything. I haven't been able to uncover that. What I have been able to uncover, though, is in Washington, D.C., businesses are supposed to have what's called a certificate of occupancy registered with the district, and there's only one certificate of occupancy linked to the 6th floor. Media Matters is the only organization that is listed as owning that whole entire floor. None of the other organizations show up in the list at all. It's very possible that Washington, D.C. has no idea that there's 14 organizations stuffed into essentially one office space.
Because I'm going to list them. I'm going to name them all. You got Media Matters for America, Media Matters Action Network, Correct the Record Super PAC, American Bridge 21st Century Super PAC, Franklin Forum PAC, American Bridge 21st Century Foundation, the Franklin Education Forum, the Franklin Forum, the American Independent, Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, D.C. I love that one. I really love that one.
Yeah, me too.
I got to say that one more time because this one is just so beautiful. Only a twisted mind could think this up. Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, D.C. Oh, man. American Democracy Legal Fund, which is a 527 committee, but it's showing itself as a legal fund. Then it's the Bonner Group, which is a professional solicitor, American Priorities Joint Fundraising Committee, and the Franklin Strategies LLC, which is a corporation. So not all of these are 501c. Some of them are super PACs, some of them are 527 committees, and Franklin Strategies is listing itself as a limited liability corporation. And yet the only one is Media Matters that's listed.
Yes, they're the compstack.com. Media Matters is the only one that they recognize. That's a popular website for comparing what tenants are paying in certain locations. And then also in Washington, D.C.'s databases. I think it's called the Property Information Verification System. They only recognize one certificate of occupancy linked to the 6th floor, period. We can't see for sure if that is Media Matters for America, but the fact that Washington, D.C. only sees one certificate of occupancy on the 6th floor, yet by comparing all these tax return documents and filings with the FEC, that there's a total of 14 companies, that's not good. Washington, D.C. has no idea that there's 14 companies stuffed into that one office space.
Now, shouldn't these entities have some sort of a business license? Shouldn't those licenses be registered with then Washington, D.C.?
They should.
But
I contacted Washington, D.C. about, no. For instance, the Bonner Group, their professional solicitor, their registration has been lapsed since, I believe, May 2015. They last registered in 2013, and registrations last for 2 years. But to go even further, I asked them, hey, have they ever registered as a professional solicitor? Which, if you're going to be raising money, tax-free dollars for nonprofits in Washington, D.C., you need to be properly registered to do that. And they said, no, they've never been seen, and they've never been registered as a professional solicitor, at least not from what we can see right now over the phone.
Now, the Bonnett Group is what? That's a law firm?
They're a professional solicitor. So they're actually one of the most successful Democrat-aligned fundraisers for Democratic nonprofits and super PACs. So they focus primarily on just raising money for organizations, which is fine. I mean, a part of running nonprofit is raising money, and it's okay to, for instance, have a 12.5% fundraising rate that you pay to get funds in. I mean, you have to spend money to make money regardless of the industry that you're in. The problem is that, one, the Bonnett Group isn't properly registered in Washington, D.C., or any of the states that they raise money in. And two, money is cycled, is kind of just washed inside these 14 organizations. It goes into Media Matters, and then it goes back to the Bonnett Group, and then it goes into the Franklin Education Forum, back into the Bonnett Group, into the Franklin Forum. And if you look at all these organizations, they're all receiving money from different organizations, and then spitting that money out into other organizations that they share office space with. It's just it's kind of crazy once you look at a big picture. I have on my website, I documented all the transfers in 2014, and it's a pretty big flow chart of money just kind of moving around. And every time money is passed, the Bonnett Group gets a 12.5% cut off the top.
So, in other words, if you have someone that's a liberal and has, basically a good heart and said, all right, fine, you've got the Franklin Educational Group or whatever it's called, and they're trying to help, raise the educational level of our youth. I don't know. Think of something imaginative. So I'm going to turn around and say, all right, fine. I think that's a worthy cause. Let me take out, say $1,000 and make a donation to them. But that individual has no idea where the money is actually going and whether or not it's going to the purpose that they're being told it's being raised for, do they?
Exactly. Yeah. Just given the amount of transfers that we see between the organizations, it's hard to tell just looking at it from the surface if they have a specific amount of dollars that are earmarked that they're going to be doing these dirty transfers, these fraudulent transfers, and then if they kind of keep the legitimate dollars and keep them towards their original purpose. But there's a New York Times article in 2015 that I referenced in a couple of my articles that talks about the Bonnett Group. And in it, there's a couple of high-dollar donors, that are cutting $1 million checks for Media Matters and some of these other organizations. And they reported that they weren't notified that the Bonnett Group was even a thing, that the Bonnett Group was going to be receiving a 12.5% cut in the form of a commission, which is a big deal in itself. It's a very important thing that you need to disclose. Hey, we're using a professional fundraiser to raise funds for us. They're going to be collecting a 12.5% commission. That needs to be disclosed, and some of these high-dollar donors are reporting that they were not notified that was going to take place.
Oh, wow. This is all mind-boggling. A lot of this I'm absolutely brand new to. I mean, when Bill sent me your name asking if I wanted to have you on the show, I said, sure. And boy, I'm way out of my depth here. But this stuff, it's absolutely amazing, because here you think that, all right, I'm going to give money to feed the hungry, but yet when you find that only maybe 10 or 20 cents on the dollar that you're donating is actually going to that actual charity, it kind of sours you in making any sort of a donation. And here you're saying that people are giving like $1 million to Media Matters thinking it's going in one direction when it's going completely the opposite direction, and padding the pockets, as I'm understanding it, of David Brock.
Yeah, it's kind of mind-boggling, and that I'm not utilizing any any leaked information. This is all just sitting out there. Some of this for the example that I have on my site to illustrate what's going on is from 2014. So it happened almost 3 years ago. And also the fact that I'm the first person that's reporting this. But like I said at the beginning of the call, I opened up the site out of necessity because nobody has been talking about any of this stuff until I put it in the public view. It's kind of shameful that the IRS and the FEC haven't caught this already because, not to diminish my skill set, I feel like I'm bringing a unique skill set to the table, but they could have picked up on all this pretty quickly with all the people that work in their staff. It probably they just would have had to apply themselves for an afternoon maybe to cover all this.
Oh, but that's asking government to do their job. Oh wow! Wait a minute, that's an oxymoron. So this has really been an eye-opening experience for me in many different areas. I always hear in the media that, especially from conservative commentators, that the government's ineffective or they don't put enough scrutiny on liberal groups. And to be completely honest, just a couple months ago, I thought that was just kind of a knee-jerk reaction that there's no way. But then after completing this research and seeing these violations that have just been sitting out there, there's something going on there that they're just not putting scrutiny on these liberal organizations. Now, on these 14...
I do have a question, actually, and it's just that there are 14 pro-Clinton super PACs and nonprofits that are implicated. Now, I'm just wondering, Hillary Clinton herself, how far removed is this from her? Is she, for example, is she just way too far up the food chain to even be affected by something like this? Would she even be aware that this is going on? Like I say, she's so far up the food chain. Would it directly affect her with her campaign?
Yes. So surprisingly, there's a direct link from the Clinton campaign into this what I'm calling Media Matters conglomerate. The first article that I posted on the site. I uncover a record that was submitted to the Federal Election Commission from looking at the Clinton campaign's expenses. They sent a $22,000 check to American Bridge 21st Century for the purpose of research. American Bridge 21st Century is a David Brock super PAC operating out of the office in Washington, D.C. that focuses primarily on opposition research. So they hire trackers to follow around conservative politicians and try to catch them in gaffes. And they're funded by unlimited outside donations. They're super PAC. They're independent expenditure-only committee. They cannot coordinate with super PACs. But here we have in 2015, December 4th, the Clinton campaign purchased research from the super PAC, $22,000 worth of it. And then, as I go on in the article, they fudged the accounting. They claimed that they were paying a non-political organization instead of properly identifying American Bridge to the FEC as a super PAC. And so that's how this has gone uncovered for so long. But yeah, so this is one of the three direct links from the Clinton campaign to a super PAC that I've uncovered. So yes, there's a direct link between the Clinton campaign and this Media Matters conglomerate that we can draw a line to.
Oh, that is amazing. Like I said, I'm with Annie. I'm learning as I go along. And the more Annie and I, we're going to be Skyping together going, oh, my goodness, we've got homework. Let's get together and be study buddies because it's fascinating. It's just the intricacies that people are not aware of. And this is so vital that people understand exactly what is going on. And, of course, anything that would harm Hillary's ambitions to the White House, I'm all for. Mr. Kerr, thank you for answering my question.
You're welcome. Well, and that's the challenging thing about this is, this is really complicated stuff, and I put just as much time into formatting my findings and documenting it in a way that's easy to understand, because this is very complicated, and it's been challenging to communicate this stuff into smaller sound bites so that people can understand. But that this is a very important thing, that the Clinton campaign purchased research from a super PAC in 2015. That's huge in itself. That's coordination with a super PAC that can't happen. That's illegal in our current system. And then furthermore, the fact that it's gone uncovered for almost 9 months, 10 months. This is mind-blowing that I find this record and I try to look up online, hey, what are other people saying about this? And nothing comes up. Nobody's looking at the primary data that's just sitting out there.
Now, what's really important is that we've got to stress is that if you have a super PAC, you are forbidden by federal law to have any direct contact with a campaign. The campaign cannot contact you, and you cannot directly contact the campaign. It's possible that you can say, in an interview, you can say, for example, you're on Sean Hannity, oh, I wish, this super PAC that's investigating XYZ would look at this or that and, let the public know what's going on. That can happen, but you cannot have a direct contact. So anyone from Hillary Clinton's campaign cannot contact American Bridge 21st Century Foundation. 21st Century Foundation cannot directly contact the Clinton campaign. So there is a huge breach of federal campaign law. And this is not what's being talked about. But instead, we're hearing about Donald Trump's foundation not being properly registered in New York State. Really?
Yeah. And
go ahead.
And, I haven't been able to look into Donald Trump's foundation that much because, this is such a big rabbit hole that has consumed such a large portion of my time. Even if Donald Trump's foundation has some questionable transactions, I've been hearing about this painting. The vast majority of the operations in this foundation are devoted to charitable purposes, to help to distributing money to organizations or helping out people. What's happening here in David Brock's Media Matters conglomerate is that these are not public welfare establishments. They are designed to influence public opinion, public policy, and our media. It's undemocratic, and with these allegations of coordinating with super PACs, it's interfering with our democratic process. And so this is not a left or right issue. This is a democracy issue. They're breaking the law, giving Hillary Clinton an unfair advantage in the presidential election. Even if you're a Hillary Clinton supporter, let's give her authentic support. We shouldn't be supporting somebody that's cheating the system illegally. It's not, in my book, it's not okay. And that's why I'm going public with this, because it's frustrating that they're breaking these laws and it's just gone unnoticed for so long.
Now, have you ever tried to go to this address personally, 455 Massachusetts Avenue, northwest to the 6th floor, to actually physically scope it out, or is that something that's not in your budget?
No, it wasn't in my budget before. I had a pretty good job working in IT for a well-known firm that just a couple weeks ago I left my job there to devote my full time to this story. And also, this is some pretty politically damning stuff. So holding employment isn't compatible with pushing this story and going on radio programs and everything. But I haven't been there personally yet. But I do have the bandwidth now to go up, and some family members and I were joking around. Let's go give them a visit. Say hello. But no, I haven't been up there personally yet.
This would be something good if you could hook up with James O'Keefe and do an expose on that one. A little videotape here. I mean, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
And James O'Keefe does some great stuff. Maybe that's an idea for you to reach out to him and see if the two of you can hook up and put something together. Because he's got the video equipment and everything to do it.
Well, before I opened up this website, I did. I sent out a lot of tips to organizations. I believe I sent an email out to Veritas Action, James O'Keefe's organization, But I got some feedback from some pretty well-known organizations and some pretty big names that expressed a lot of excitement over my research, but then they kind of went dark on me because this is some really damning stuff. And you know, I spent a good 2-3 months researching before I started reaching out to people, and they're going to put the same amount of time in before feeling comfortable about, you know, writing an article about it. So I decided to open up the website on my own to get public exposure to this information because I just wasn't I wasn't getting fast enough response from those organizations, and also I'm just one person. I don't have a reputation yet, and I was just getting lost in the mess. These organizations probably receive hundreds of tips every day. So, you know, now that I'm on, you know, for instance, your radio show, and I've been on a couple other shows now, I'll have some more leverage and, you know, teaming up with some of these bigger names because, I mean, to be quite honest, this is a really big story.
That it is.
That I'm trying to push here.
Yeah, that it is. Because if you've got 14 different PACs that are umbrellaed under one individual, only one individual, David Brock, and he's using the power of the bully pulpit to influence public policy and political policy, and yet actually violate the IRS regulations, federal law, campaign finance law, the Federal Elections Commission law, to blatantly flaunt it to help him get Hillary Clinton elected. This is big news. This is huge news, as Donald Trump says. This is huge.
Yeah.
But we've got to get people out there to know about your website, which is thecitizensaudit.com. There's a link up on the show page. And Andrew, majority of people that listen to the show listen to the podcast later on. So all they have to do is look at the description and click on the link to go directly to your site and read for themselves the articles you have. Because you don't just simply write. You take portions of those documents to show exactly where you got your information from. Right? Yeah,
I have a technical background. I studied computer science in college. I worked in a technical profession for the past 3 years. I'm not your typical journalist. I don't want to be a typical journalist. I wrote these articles almost as if it was a technical documentation. I start at the beginning and I clearly explain, here's the law, here's what's happening, here's the documentation, a screenshot of the tax return or the financial filing with the Federal Election Commission. I underline in red the key portions of that snip, and then I just rinse and repeat towards the end of the article. There's very little of my opinion. It's mostly just presenting the facts, and it's complex material. But I have respect for my readers that people can understand what's happening here and the way that I've presented it. It's not the easiest to understand. It's not, I'm not cherry picking information and just, spoon feeding it. It is complex, but it's all there. And I've received a lot of great feedback in the comments and in private messages where people are saying like, wow, this is a really fantastic, groundbreaking report that you're doing here. Thank you for taking the time to do this. So yeah, I encourage your viewers to go to the site, read through the articles. It's a big story, and I put my heart and soul into it, and I hope that people read through it, process it, and understand what's happening here. Undemocratic manipulation of public opinion and our public elections.
Yeah, because you even put a summary at the end, and on the one with the Clinton campaign, your summary reads, the Clinton campaign illegally purchased research services from American Bridge 21st Century, a pro-democratic opposition research super PAC, on December 4th, 2015. This has gone unnoticed for over 9 months because the Clinton campaign improperly recorded their disbursement as one to a non-political organization. American Bridge 21st Century recorded their receipt as an offset to operating expenditure, which the FEC reportedly doesn't monitor. So not only was the Clinton campaign putting this little transaction somewhere hidden. American Bridge 21st Century was doing the same thing. So if they mislabel it, maybe it might have been an accident, not. But if they mislabel it, no one notices. No one questions it. But you followed, like you said, all the way down the rabbit hole and found that, hey, wait a minute, this doesn't quite make sense. If you look at it this way, it does make logical sense. And, hey, if you or I were to do that, we'd be behind bars right now. But because these individuals are who they are, no one's touching them. This is the political elitist that we're trying to fight against.
Yeah, it's crazy. I believe that the FEC they keep master data files. There's 7 of them that each transaction is analyzed and then built into one of those buckets, and one of them is a transaction from committee to committee. So Hillary Clinton's campaign, Hillary for America, is a presidential committee. American Bridge 21st Century is a super PAC, political action committee. They have their own committee numbers. So this transaction should have showed up in the committee-to-committee file. These files are just massive text documents, just pages and pages of unformatted text. But when I tried searching for this specific transaction, it wasn't showing up there. It showed up in just the standard operating expenditures data file. And then when I looked at that data and compared that to the metadata, I know I'm talking computer lingo here, but really long story short, we can see clear as day that they misrepresented this transaction, said it was to a non-political committee. That's just a smoking gun right there that they lied in their reporting. It's about as good as an argument can get, in my opinion.
Now, you write also about an Alida Mae Black. Who is she, and why should we be worried about her?
So she is on the board of Priorities USA Action. That's the largest pro-Hillary super PAC in terms of spending. I believe they spent $70 million so far this election season. She also co-founded the Ready for Hillary super PAC in 2014, leading up to Hillary Clinton formally announcing her candidacy. Now, at the same time, Alida Mae Black is on the Hillary for America Finance Council. She's listed on Hillary Clinton's website as a Hillblazer, somebody who has risen over $100,000 for her campaign. Alida Black's Facebook, at the time that I searched through it, was publicly facing, and I could just go through all the posts, and we can see very clearly on March 4th, 2016, Alida Black was on site at Hillary Clinton's campaign headquarters for a finance council meeting. At the same time, she's on the board of Priorities USA Action, pro-Hillary super PAC, the largest one this campaign season. So when we talk about super PACs coordinating with political campaigns, there are some sleazy loopholes in the system that enable some communication. But when we look at the regulations, it really all goes down to coordinating expenditures. There can't be any coordination in terms of spending money. But here we have a super PAC, a member of a board of a super PAC at a finance council meeting at Hillary Clinton's campaign headquarters. So at a finance council meeting, they're discussing money. That provides reasonable suspicion that there was a discussion regarding, hey, the Clinton campaign's going to spend money in this format, and then we want a Priorities USA Action to also spend money in this fashion. That's illegal. That can't happen. It's just crazy that, again, that's just something that's just been sitting out there that has gone unnoticed. Board member of the super PAC at the Hillary for America headquarters. It's unbelievable.
Oh, man, it is. And like I said, if it was anyone else doing this, they would be coming down on them like a hammer. But because it's Hillary Clinton, no one's touching her. And she's getting away with so many illegal things. Now, have you tied any of this at all into the Clinton Foundation?
No, there are not any links directly to the Clinton Foundation that I've been able to find in this David Brock Media Matters conglomerate. I know that it seems like every week there's a new email leak that I've been reviewing, but I haven't. I'm intentionally not including any of those findings on my website for this specific research project, because part of what I want to get across is that everything that I've uncovered is just sitting out there for public review. If you look at the comments on my site, and I'm getting a lot of emails, people are discouraged. They're saying, hey, Clinton is getting away with so much violations. What can a regular person do? Like, hey, I have a petition up on change.org. It has almost 500 signatures as of this conversation. There's a lot of people that are like, hey, this is just kind of hopeless. It's a pipe dream to think that, we can do anything here. But, I want to show that this is all just stuff that's just been sitting out there for public review. We can't count on the media to do their jobs to look into this, because they're focused on quantity over quality reporting. They're not going to spend 2 months digging into something. The government obviously isn't looking into this information. So it's time for just regular people, just the citizens, to conduct a citizens audit on these organizations and show, using verified public documentation, that this is what's happening, and kind of force the hands of the government to do something about this. That's what I'm trying to do, and that's why I'm intentionally not utilizing any of the email leaks, because they can always just claim that, oh well, Russian hackers modified the email, so that's not a legitimate source of information.
No, just curious, how she can manage. If there's some way to tie it into the Clinton Foundation, I'm sure she's already figured that out, and you just haven't uncovered it yet. But can you bring this forward to your state attorney general and say, hey, listen, this is what I've uncovered. What can you do about it?
Yeah, that is part of the plan, and I'm starting to focus more of my time on that outreach to government resources and also to public policy centers. But part of my strategy here is that I wanted to make this information public. I believe that people have the right to be able to see what's going on in these organizations. And part of my fear was agreeing to work with an organization and then having this buried for a set amount of time while we work on it internally, or just get sent it to the government and then they just bury all this information and then they'll do anything about it. So I'm doing this a little bit differently. I want to make this as public as possible. People have the right to review what's happening, and then now that people's eyes are on this and they're aware of what's happening, that should give us much more leverage with the thought leaders in moving forward and doing something about this. Before I was just one person, I was getting lost in the noise, so that wasn't working.
Well, hopefully the word starts getting out. I've got a lot of people that are listening in on the studio, and the chat room's starting to fill up. So hopefully if they've missed the beginning of the show, they can go back and listen to the archives to understand what we're talking about. We are talking about the Citizens Audit. My teeth are in backwards today. TheCitizensAudit.com, the site founder, Andrew Kerr, who's now practicing investigative journalism, uncovered the shenanigans going on with David Brock of Media Matters, the 14 different organizations he's formed that all operate out of a single address. Most of them are not legally listed, or if they are, they're not properly listed. And the transactions that are going on between these organizations, the laundering of money, of donations that are coming in, passing through one organization, going to another, and David Brock pockets a part of it, one of his other groups pockets another part of it, and it's crazy. It's crazy, and its influence and actual connection to the Clinton campaign, which is, again, completely against the law. David, I don't even know if anyone can really follow all the little strings that you've managed to unravel here. Even me, I've got my head spinning on this.
Yeah, it's definitely been a challenge trying to communicate this in a clear, cohesive way. On my site there's 8 articles describing everything, but really it's just one massive story. And if you look at the newer articles, they're constantly linking back to the previous articles, assuming that you've already read them because it's pulling necessary information. It would have been totally unmanageable to document all of this into like one massive 100-page article. So that's, I had to split it up into multiple articles intentionally. But really, it's just one massive story of all these organizations, the money transfers, the illegal coordination with the Clinton campaign. It's crazy.
Yeah,
that's the way to put it.
And here Donald Trump is told that he cannot have his foundation any longer raising money in the state of New York because it's not properly registered. And yet David Brock has the unregistered solicitor, which is American Bridge 21st Century, raising money, but it's in itself is not legally registered. And the fact that
even in states that they are technically registered in, so Colorado is a good example. Colorado has a good professional solicitor database that they allow the public to review. But if we, and I have this in one of my articles, explaining the unregistered solicitation. But in the state of Colorado, this spawner group claims that they only raise money for Media Matters, that they don't work for any other organization, which is blatantly false. They're raising money for all the organizations just in that one address, in addition to a number of other organizations in Washington, D.C. and nationwide. So there's registration issues with every state that I've looked at for the spawner group. It makes these allegations against Trump's foundation in New York State look like peanuts.
It's so confusing trying to keep track of everything. But I have to let people know, my usual co-host finally was able to get in. He is suffering from Hurricane Matthew, so I'm glad to see Curtis is with us. So Curtis, feel free to jump in when you are ready. But we're talking with Andrew Kerr of the Citizensaudit.com about David Brock and these 14 organizations that he has housed under one roof, one single address at 455 Massachusetts Avenue Northwest, 6th floor in Washington, D.C., when in actuality, what Andrew found out is that only Media Matters is registered to operate out of that address. The other 13 groups are not registered to operate their business from that location. I know when my husband and I had a business here in South Carolina, we had to register with the state and county and let them know that we're operating out of this address. If we were to have a second business, we would then have to notify them of a second business or of a subsidiary. But these aren't even listed as subsidiaries, are they, Andrew? They're listed as separate entities.
Yes, most of them are claiming that they're separate entities. Furthermore, they actually specify that all of the board members for each of these organizations can be reached at 455 Massachusetts Avenue on the 6th floor. So this is not like a P.O. box. It's not just a mailing address for a lawyer's office. These organizations are physically operating out of that address on the 6th floor. And then they all claim to be separate entities from one another, despite the fact that a lot of them share the same board members. David Brock is the chairman for each of these organizations. There's a individual named Pilar Martinez that is present on most of these boards, and a couple of other folks work for all of these organizations, collecting pay and putting in time each week. But they're claiming to the IRS and to the Federal Election Commission that they have no formal relationship with any other organization. So this is a litany of registration issues that are present in these organizations.
Well, we've got someone in the chat.
I think that's.
I'm sorry. Someone in the chat room wrote, happened to be Bigfoot. He said that he hears that Brock is doing his best to interfere with your transmissions. Is David Brock attempting to mess up your investigation and stop you from getting the word out?
No. So my piece that's titled "Money Laundering Scheme Exposed" that got reposted by Zero Hedge and then by Drudge Report. Sean Hannity posted the article on his site. Upwards of 60 websites have reposted my content.
Mm-hmm.
So well over 1 million people have read my words, which is pretty exciting, being a newbie in the field of journalism. But the fact that I have not received any communication from David Brock or from Reading Matters or from any of these folks that are linked to these organizations, I haven't received one bit of communication, threatening a lawyer or really anything. I think that shows that they don't want to legitimize what I'm saying here. They don't want to respond to it because there's so much here that if they have issue with one of these articles and they bring it up, then that's going to put a magnifying glass on everything that I've uncovered. So I think they just want me to go away. They don't want to talk to me. They don't want to have anything to do with me. And that's pretty exciting, that I've been threatened with no legal action, after accusing them of money laundering. The fact that I haven't heard anything from them, that kind of solidifies the legitimacy of these findings, at least in my book.
Oh man, it's so much. Curtis, go ahead with your question.
I was just curious, with all these organizations operating out of the same address, is this legal? I mean, illegal? And if it is, why aren't the authorities, going there and taking people to jail?
We've been talking a lot about registration issues. You're using your example with South Carolina. So that would be a local or state matter, not necessarily a federal offense. So the fact that there are 14 organizations operating out of this one address, that in itself is okay. But when we consider that most of these organizations are not properly registered with Washington, D.C., they're in trouble with Washington, D.C. for not notifying that they're operating these businesses out of this address. They're in more trouble when we consider that they're raising funds illegally by not properly registering their solicitor, and they're even more trouble when we look at the money transfers between these organizations, that their solicitor is skimming money off the top every time there's a transfer between one organization to another. And they're in even more trouble when we consider the tax fraud allegations that we were discussing earlier, how Media Matters receives rent payments from American Bridge 21st Century Super PAC, but they don't report that rental income in their IRS tax returns. And they're in even more trouble when we consider the illegal coordination between David Brock's Super PACs and the Clinton campaign. So, yes, there's a lot of illegal activity occurring here. It's definitely outside of a legal gray area by a long shot.
All right, we got a caller coming in with the question. Let's bring this individual on. And I do believe we've got the underground professor. Do we? Professor?
Oh, boy.
We hear you.
I unplugged my headsets and I was like, what's going on here? There we are. I'm back.
All right.
Hey,
you have
a real quick question. Has your caller, or your guest rather, has he contacted the Federal Elections Commission yet? Because it sounds like they're violating the FEC rules and regulations as well, and those people are pretty nasty about following up on that stuff.
I have not at this point. The Federal Election Commission, you can't just submit a complaint. Like, you actually have to draft up a legal document. Like I said before, I'm actually focused right now on exposing this. I believe that the public has the right to know what's going on here. I didn't want to risk having any of this buried, so I'm taking care of this step first. But I am spending more of my time getting connected to legal advocacy groups in order to draft formal complaints to the IRS and to the FEC to look into these allegations. I'm
pretty sure anybody can complain at the FEC. I don't think you have to have a legal draft. Because when I was running VotePAC, I've had lots of libtards complaining about everything I did. And was constantly having to respond to some litigation or some request, not litigation, but request for further information to prove that I was following the rules.
Well,
of course,
that's good to know. If there's something I can do without having to, draft up formal documentation, then absolutely I'll be moving on that as soon as possible.
Well, it could have changed. It's been about a decade since I was doing that stuff. And it's designed to protect incumbents and Democrats. But, yeah. Well, good luck, and don't be afraid. Never be a coward, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, man. I mean, there is so much. Thanks a lot, Professor. All right. There's so much more that goes on in this stuff that, I mean, your website, the citizensaudit.com, is an excellent website, and people can just look at it and see what is going on for themselves, because you list the documentation. So if they have any questions, they can contact you at your website and say, hey, listen, where'd you get this from? And, show me where you got, and you have it all there, and they can just verify it by going to the same resources that you went to.
Yeah, I've been consuming news for a very long time, and I've always been a little bit frustrated that the news media kind of treats its readers almost like children sometimes. And so, yeah, I have respect for my readers. That I'm putting this all right in front of them, to review for themselves, because Americans are capable of understanding what's going on here. It just needs to be presented the right way, and I think I've done that pretty well, at least for somebody that's operating this all as a solo project. I'm very proud of the work that I've done, backing up my findings with the appropriate documentation.
Yeah, it is so much that you have done. How long did it take you to put all of this together?
I started really looking into this early July. Now, it was actually during my off time. I was working full time at a technology company up until just a couple of weeks ago, and so I would be working 40 hours a week at my full time job, and then I would get home and stay up till 2 a.m. just digging up dirt, documenting findings. When it got to the point that when I was at work and I was more focused about going through financial databases and IRS tax return at work, I decided that, hey, this is not right to the company that I'm working for. I decided to focus full time on this effort and my website. But yeah, it was a lot of time on my end. Presenting it the way that I have, it would seem like, hey, this is something that could have only taken somebody a short amount of time to uncover. But when we consider the fact that there's no database out there that you can just search for tax return documents at a specific address, you have to kind of find them individually one by one. It was a pretty time-consuming process to uncover all these organizations and their business registration documents and everything. But
all right, I got a question, but she's asking the question directly of me. It's our friend Sweet Sue from New Mexico, who tirelessly ends up sending out other host shows and ours also to the listening audience, sending it out through tweets and everything else. And yes, Sue, Spreaker is the easiest way to listen in to our show. The player doesn't take up as much memory. I also have the player on my website, which is the name of the show, put a dash in the middle, southern-sense.com. So you can access both BTR and Spreaker players there. So it's also, you can get all the archives also off of my website. So thank you for that, Sue. We appreciate it. And yes, it's an important show, because if we don't know about the violations of campaign finance law being done by the Clinton campaign through David Brock and his organizations, then how are we going to know for a fact that we have an open and honest campaign? We don't, obviously. And Andrew, you're exposing that right here and now, which I think everyone should be aware of. When Donald Trump says crooked Hillary, you just don't know how crooked this woman is. She never fails to stop amazing me of the illegal ways that she'll go about making her ends come to fruition.
Yeah, and they're just doing it out in the open. I can't stress enough how all of this is just sitting out there. This is all legally obtained. It's all publicly available documentation. So they're not even hiding it. Well,
No, they're doing it straight out in the open, daring anyone to challenge them on it. And like I said, if it was just any old, person like you or me, we would be in handcuffs, hauled before court, and excoriated. But this is not happening. And I'd like to see it happen before November. I'd love to see this exposed to the public. And we do have another caller coming in. Hand is raised, and let's bring this caller in. And happens to be a friend of ours, Cool Mike. Good afternoon, Cool Mike. How are you today? Mike, can you imagine if you did half this stuff on your campaign? Because Mike is running for school board up in Grand Rapids. Can you imagine if you pulled half this crap, Mike? You'd be in jail.
I'd have handcuffs and a blindfold, and everybody would be wondering what happened to Cool Mike. I have my question. It's kind of a two-part question. What made you even begin? I didn't hear the introduction because I was doing the door-to-door. What made you begin, or what irked your curiosity about this to even start? And halfway through, I mean, when you're discovering all of this information, I mean, what are you thinking? Are you thinking like, no way, this can't? I mean, it seems like they're almost like disobeying the law, thinking like it doesn't apply to them.
Yeah, thanks for the question. My primary motivation was actually right after James Comey came out and had that 15-minute press conference where he said that no reasonable prosecutor would indict Hillary Clinton. I've never gotten that depressed over watching a political news conference before. I thought that throughout his press conference that he was leading up to, hey, we're going to indict Hillary Clinton. But then when he dropped the hammer saying that, no, we're not going to move forward with it, like I physically felt down for the rest of the day. And I decided that I just need to understand campaign finance law. I need to look at the primary sources of data. The media is not cutting it. I'm not receiving any sort of, thoughtful reporting from traditional news sources. So I just decided to go digging and see what I could find. And yeah, and then halfway through, when I'm uncovering these things, that's exactly what I was thinking. What is going on here? This is unbelievable. When I found that transaction, the $22,000 check purchasing research that the Clinton campaign sent to American Bridge 21st Century Super PAC, that was the moment where I said, okay, enough is enough. The fact that this happened and that it hasn't been reported on for almost 9 months is unacceptable. And what a strange position for just a regular person to be in, to uncover something in the public record like that, and to know that if I don't say anything, then this is going to continue to be unnoticed because the news media and our government are not reviewing public documentation. Even if there was some sort of loophole that enables the Clinton campaign to purchase super PAC research, I mean, just the fact that it wasn't reported anywhere, not in the fringe conservative media, not anywhere, because I mean that in itself is publishable information. That's a big story, and nobody had picked up on it yet. That was honestly, I still can't believe that I'm the first person to be talking about this. That was the moment when I really decided and knew that I needed to stand behind my research and put my name behind it and open up the site to host my research.
Now,
thank you for the question.
Did anyone from the Trump campaign approach you about this research for its validity or use it in any way?
No, I have not. I haven't received word from the Trump campaign. I posted a lot of this research on the Donald Trump subreddit on reddit.com, and they expressed a lot of excitement there. I had some discussions with the moderators there that said they were going to transfer it over, but I haven't been in direct communication with them yet.
Oh, because if anyone could make this public knowledge and spread the word out, it would be the Trump campaign. I mean, and get everyone to see exactly what is going on. Because it's proof positive that this is one of the most crooked politicians that we have ever seen in American history. I think she's actually outdone her husband, and she's outdone Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon looks like a kindergarten kid compared to her. They're not even in the same level. You couldn't even put them in the same sentence, honestly, together, because one didn't cost anyone's life. Hillary Clinton cost 4 lives. But this is absolutely amazing stuff, and it goes so far up the food chain. I am absolutely flabbergasted. There's another group you wrote about that's tied in with David Brock and the Bonner Group. You write about a Lucas Strategy Group. Who are they, and what's their involvement?
Oh yeah, thanks for asking that question. I've done a number of interviews, and you're the first person that brought this one up. This is really interesting. I don't have the article right in front of me right now, but the senior vice president of the Bonner Group, this professional solicitor, opened up an LLC, the Lucas Strategy Group, at her home address in Virginia, and then 2 weeks later received a $30,000 check from, I believe it was either American Bridge 21st Century or Correct the Record.
You have Correct the Record.
We have these allegations. It was Correct the Record, yeah. So the Bonner Group raises funds for Correct the Record. They receive 12.5% commission on every dollar raised. And then their senior VP, who's in charge of all solicitation activities, opens up an LLC, the Lucas Strategy Group, in her home address, and then receives more money from Correct the Record for operations consulting. It's a massive conflict of interest at the least, and it's at most likely it's just more evidence of fraud of these people collecting double pay from these organizations.
Well, we also have another question from Sue, and I just knocked it off the screen. All right, here it goes. She wants to know if you contacted WikiLeaks or DC Leaks about this, about getting your information out.
No, I haven't talked with any of the WikiLeaks or DC Leaks, because these aren't leaks. It's public. This is all in the public domain.
Man, it is a fascinating stuff, and the website is the citizensaudit.com. Now, I'm assuming that you're calling in from a cell phone because your signal's starting to go in and out.
Oh, yes, I am.
So I have a funny feeling your battery's starting to die on us. But this is absolutely fascinating stuff, and I'm going to tell people to go to thecitizensaudit.com. And if they go to that website, can they sign the petition from your website there?
No, it links to change.org. And just one note about I'm starting to receive a lot of emails, and we've had a lot of comments now, like, hey, have you reached out to this organization or that organization? To be completely blunt and honest, as good as I am at uncovering information and documenting my findings, I'm probably just as bad at marketing my findings. The word is that I don't use first person language in my documentations. I don't use the words I, me, I did this. I'm using we as if it was a public project, and so. Honestly, I've been talking about getting lost in the mess with these organizations, trying to submit tips and get them to respond to me. What would really help me out is, being on, this show, for instance, being able to talk about my findings, but also, it'd be awesome if you're just as passionate and wanting to, make a difference and, get this stuff public, help me out by spreading the word. This is not necessarily a personal project that I'm owning all for myself. This is a citizens audit. I've done a lot of work in finding and documenting my findings, but by all means, I need the help in getting the word out, because I'm one voice in a country of over 300 million people. So this is a public project that I'm partaking in.
Well, I've got some fantastic listeners here, and I'm sure that they're going to be tweeting this or putting it up on the social networks. It already is. I'm already broadcasting here, not just on Blog Talk Radio. It's on High Plains Media, SHR Media, Kinetic Hi-Fi, the Fix FM out of Charleston. It's on about 8 other markets. So this show is not just on one single market. It's in 8 other markets on top of that. So you'll have thousands of people that will be listening to this. So the word will be spread. So Curtis, go ahead with your question, hon.
Andrew, what's the end result you hope to see once your information gets out?
I want to see an official audit on these organizations. This is all uncovered using public documentation. I can only imagine what would be uncovered once our government agencies do their jobs and start looking through their books. I believe that I've presented enough evidence that warrants a full investigation on these organizations. In one of my articles, I show a report that David Brock actually was blackmailed $850,000 from a previous live-in ex-boyfriend when he threatened to go to the IRS with damning evidence that would undermine his organizations. So David Brock has been blackmailed $850,000 to not be audited. I believe that the information presented here is enough to force an audit. And the allegations are so damning and so strong that if the IRS wants to claim that they're not a political organization, that they're nonpartisan, then this is going to force their hands. They need to be looking into this. So that's my end result. If they announce that, hey, we're going to be auditing Media Matters, then I'm throwing a party. That's all I'm going to say.
We're all invited.
Yeah. Oh, yes, you are.
Because I'm sure that you've only just started on at the surface. This is just the surface, because I'm sure if there is an actual audit, there's going to be other organizations that are going to get dragged into this, like this Luca group that you've tied into, because that's not one of the 14 that's listed on this Massachusetts Avenue address. There's got to be others, because if there's just this in one location, what else is he hiding?
Exactly, yeah.
Well, Andrew, it has been fascinating, and I wish you a lot of luck. And like I said, this is going out over the airways across the nation, and it's actually, I've got a lot of listeners worldwide, too. So I hope we're going to stir up enough interest to get your site more people on there and get more word out. I mean, I'd love to see Hillary and result in an orange prison jumpsuit with this, too. Not just David Brock. But then again, they may be able to swap clothes together. So, well, good luck, Andrew.
I really appreciate the opportunity of being on the show. It's been great. Thank you so much for having me on.
It has been our pleasure. And the website, folks, to go to, thecitizensaudit.com. And I managed to get that out without screwing up too badly. Andrew, good luck, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Andrew Kerr, check out his website, thecitizensaudit.com. All this information he has up there. And it is so convoluted what David Brock has done. I'm glad that, Curtis, that you were able to join us. And Kel, thank you for being with us. I'm looking at the clock. We've got about 20 minutes left. So we're just going to do a round robin because we've got the hurricane. I wanted to talk about that. And Thuy Lowe was not able to call in because she's in the midst of the hurricane and she had no power at the time that we went on air. She managed to message me on Facebook, but we missed the fact that she wasn't able to join us. Curtis, you aware that her yard signs were being ripped up and trashed?
No, I wasn't until I saw the notice she put out. It's sad. Same thing somewhat happened to Glow Smith, who we had on there as a guest last month when she was running against Corrine Brown. Somebody painted her whiteface on one of her signs. And of course, Glow Smith is African American. But there are evil people out there, and most of them are on the left, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to politics. They do not like freedom of speech or expression as much as they talk about that.
Well, I have to make an apology because I'm looking at a description, and I put down in the description she's with U.S. Congress, Florida District 5. That's incorrect. I will correct it after the show. It is District 10. She was originally District 5, but they redrew the districts, so now she's in District 10, and that's where she's running.
Right.
And her website is her name, Thuy Lowe 2016. There's a link on. I have the correct link, just the wrong district on that, which I will correct after the show. But how'd you fare with the hurricane?
Well, right now I feel a little bit like I'm on that opening scene in Gilligan's Island on the Minnow during a terrible storm. It's just a lot of rain. It intensifies, then it kind of dies down, then it swells up, crescendo or whatever. And there's, of course, strong winds. But we haven't had anything super major yet, as far as cars being flipped over or roofs, being uplifted. Not that I know, but most of the damage is on the eastern coast, and I'm more inland, about 60 miles inland from St. Augustine Beach. Mm-hmm. So we're pretty cool. I think we'll be able to ride this out.
Yeah, because we're on the coast. You know where we are. You've been here.
Yeah.
But I'm like they're estimating we're going to be somewhere about 50 miles or so from the eye of the storm. We'll be getting the outer bands coming around us. We've already got some of them. We've had some heavy rain. My power, right smack in the middle of the show, Kel will tell you, I lost my internet and my power for a few seconds, knocked me out. So I'm going to have to upload the entire show later on onto Spreaker, because there'll be a gap in there. So we'll correct that. But I made sure that we had enough water. We've got enough food to last us more than 2 weeks, easily. We've got the power generator. We've got extra gas for that. We've got gas for the grill. So if we do lose power, I can always use the grill out back. It's inside the porch. No, and it's not a glassed-in porch. It's a screened-in porch, so it's properly vented. Don't worry about that. We're not going to set the house on fire. We do this all the time.
Don't barbecue when you're drinking the scotch.
Yeah. I've got.
Hey, I hear Obama said something about some climate change bill or whatever that's supposed to stop hurricanes like this. I don't know how that's going to work out, but maybe we need something like that.
Yeah, right. Like a legislative bill is going to stop the act of God. Hello, excuse me, Lord. You can't send a hurricane because President Obama just signed a bill saying that hurricanes are now outlawed. So, dear Lord, you cannot send us any more hurricanes. That's going to work real well.
It's been long now. No more hurricanes.
Don't worry. If there's a will, there's a way to blame the conservatives for this.
Now, actually,
they're going to blame Bush for this.
Hillary Clinton last month, I think it was around. She was talking in Tampa. Curtis, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't she, back when she was in Tampa talking, blame global climate change on Tropical Storm Hermine or Hurricane Hermine, whatever that was? Didn't she just do that last month? I think she did.
Yes, she did. She's good for the name. Blame game.
Of course. It's global warning. Global, B-U-L-L. This is stupid. Look at all the money our governments are spending on this hoax.
It is, and it is another way to overregulate and to oppress the American populace, American businesses. Yeah, it's sheer stupidity. And of course, Al the Boar Gore is now weighed in on this. He's the one that has that 747 or whatever. He flies all over the world talking about global warming, and yet he's got the biggest global footprint of them all. Really? Oh, man.
Did you guys hear Leonardo DiCaprio, the Playboy actor, speaking at some sort of forum the other day? And he was endorsing Obama, of course, and he was saying that Obama's the only one that did... Clinton, yeah, because Obama's out. Well, we hope. Clinton's the only one that can help us combat global warming. If you don't believe in global warming, you don't belong here, or along those lines. And this guy, have you seen his private plane? Yeah. Do you really think that he's taking, an electrical car from, I don't know, Los Angeles to New York for one of his movie premieres? I don't think so. It's just so funny, the sheer hypocrisy. but the actors in particular. And Gore the Boar, flying around on his private jet. Barack Hussein Obama taking his Air Force One to New York to take the wifey out there for supper. Come on.
It just amazes me how every actor is suddenly an expert on global warming, climate change, or whatever they want to call it.
Oh, exactly, Curtis. But don't worry, you guys. My American brothers and sisters, no fear. Come November, you won't have to deal with these idiots any further because they're all going to be moving to Canada.
Oh, God. So we have to rescue you.
Then we'll have to have you move down here, Kel, just so you have some sanity.
Oh, are you kidding? Oh, are you kidding? I can. All the people in the chat room have a spare room for me. I might take you guys up on that because it's just getting crazier and crazier up here in Canada with the shiny pony Justin Trudeau. It's just going crazy, and he's also part of the global faux pas warming bandwagon because now he's introducing federal legislation to introduce cap and trade and carbon tax. Yes, so there they go. They're taking all our money for a hoax.
Oh, man. I never saw a silly season like I have seen with this group. Oh, man. And we've had the scandal with Wells Fargo where they had those thousands of employees opening up these bogus accounts and ripping people off to, I can't tell you, I forget how many millions. And Hillary Clinton goes out on the campaign trail and she does her speech last week. She's saying, well, we have to turn around and stomp down on these corporations that are criminal, like Wells Fargo. And I'm going, wait a minute. She's going after Wells Fargo, but Trump-Pence campaign put this out. Clinton has accepted over $250,000 from employees of Wells Fargo for her campaign. And this is cited from Center for Responsive Politics, September 29th of this year. Wells Fargo Community Support Campaign has contributed between $1,000 and $5,000 to the Clinton Foundation. This is from the Clinton Foundation itself. Clinton lobbyist bundler has raised 6 figures for Clinton's campaign while lobbying for Wells Fargo. And now Tony Podesta, brother of former Clinton White House Chief of Staff and current Clinton campaign chair John Podesta, is a big-shot Democratic lobbyist who has lobbied on behalf of multiple industries. And guess what one of them happens to be? Oh, besides, we've got Marathon Oil, Oxbow Carbon, Deepwater Horizon, BP, Golden Pass, ExxonMobil, Qatar Petroleum. He bundled over $250,000 for Hillary for America. And as recently as the second quarter 2016, Podesta was lobbying for, wait for it, Wells Fargo. So her own campaign manager lobbying for Wells Fargo, and she's going after Wells Fargo.
Wow.
You just can't make this stuff up. You cannot make this stuff up. I mean, I'm speechless. I am absolutely speechless. Between listening to what's going on with David Brock and his 14 or 15 different organizations and Media Matters and its attachment to the Clinton campaign, and then you listen to what's going on between Clinton's and Wells Fargo, you can't make this up, folks. This is the truth.
It only goes to confirm that she is absolutely bat crazy. She truly is bat crazy.
Oh, crazy as a fox. And this is not being spoken about in the public arena, and people are just fawning over her. Oh, Hillary taking selfies with her when she actually should be behind bars. Talk about political elitism. Talk about creating a royalty class here in America. The Clintons are the perfect example of a royalty class that no one's going after. No one is going after them. And it's perfectly okay to say that, she's the first woman running for president, give her a break. No, I'm not giving her a break.
Believe you me, she's open break Sunday.
We'll see what happens, because these town hall forums are Donald Trump's, playground. I don't know if you caught, he was doing a town hall in New Hampshire yesterday, and they had this gentleman in there acting as the moderator, and the moderator asked him, "Oh, Mr. Trump, we're going to be giving you 2 minutes to respond to the question. Do you want me to let you know when your 2 minutes are up?" And Trump, typical Trump style, he goes, "Well, if I'm answering the question really well, no, don't tell me if my 2 minutes are up. But if I'm really bombing on the question, tell me my 2 minutes are up."
I love Donald Trump. He's so entertaining. And one good thing, he's surrounding himself by some really good people, and I think that he'll do well as a president. I truly do. I just have a feeling that he's going to ensure that he has top advisors about him, and that I think that we're going to see a much more measured Donald Trump once he takes the oath of office. That's my prediction.
Well, I
hope he does put a stop to. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
I hope he put a stop to these refugees coming over here from the Middle East, because something happened like within the last 8 days, and you really haven't heard much of it on the news. But there was a woman who worked at a store in Oklahoma, and she was beheaded by a former co-worker who had been trying to convert her people. And, I read something kind of similar scene like that in my book, The Sacrificial Ram. And this was earlier this year. It was starting to happen here in the United States, where you never know who's going to come up from behind you and sever your head off. And here, and you don't even hear about it in the news.
Exactly. Well, we just had a knife attack at the University of British Columbia yesterday. A female student was attacked by a Saudi Arabian exchange student who was, of course, studying engineering. And people described him as being pretty nice and friendly, but all of a sudden he took a knife to this woman and slit her throat. Fortunately, he was thwarted, because a male student heard her screaming, and the male student, he had some sort of martial art training and was able to wrestle this guy off this woman, and she was rushed to hospital with a deep neck wound.
Wow.
Yesterday in Canada, at the University of British Columbia.
And you don't hear about it in the news at all. It's suddenly hush, hush. Let's not talk about, what is happening with allowing unvetted immigrants or refugees, whatever you want to call them, into our country. No, we have to have these open borders. We've got to think globally. No, we are a nation specifically for a reason, to protect what we feel our moral values are, what we feel our nation should stand for, which is liberty and freedom and capitalism. That is what our nation stands for. We are not the same as the USSR. You can't say USSR anymore, even though they're still trying to become more communist than anything else. We are not China. We are not Saudi Arabia. We don't want their values. We don't want to live the way they live. We want to live the way Americans are, with freedom. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and freedom to carry our guns. Sorry.
Well, what's Clinton's goal? Isn't it she wants to bring in about 1 million of them within a year or something like that? And believe me, they're already having families, folks. If this continues, the United States and the West in general, it's not going to look the same. You give it a generation. And there is, of course, the ambitions behind the caliphate, in that they are moving these migrants globally because they are going to be the future voting blocs. And this is something else that people maybe have not given a whole lot of thought about. But with the numbers growing, they will establish their own political parties, and these political parties, which will be Islamic and Sharia-based, will be voted into offices, whether it be at the local level, the state level. Well, wait until it gets to the federal level, and one of them is running for president.
Do you mean like the one that's in the White House now? But you've got to be careful. We're coming down to our last. We're down to our last. We're last to a few minutes here, Kel.
Obama's just a precursor. Yeah, he's just the hors d'oeuvre.
Kel, we're down to our last few minutes here. I'm just going to extend this just for a few more moments so we can get ourselves into a closing here. I want to warn people out there also that be very careful. What you're going to hear about in the news is Obama is going to propose, and this is going to be coming out, and some of it's starting to leak already, a sponsorship program where people can turn around and sponsor a refugee. Be careful, people, because now you've got people in Dearborn, Michigan, and other refugee enclaves that will say, well, we want to sponsor so-and-so to come over. They are going to pack the deck. What are going to be the requisites for these sponsorships? It's not going to be the same program that you had back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and finally removed in the 70s, where the sponsors had to be responsible, legally responsible for these individuals, have to provide them with making sure they have a job, that they do not go on the government dole for 5 years, that they work towards their American citizenship, and if they violate anything, they are deported. We're not going to see that. You're going to see mosques sponsoring entire families. You're going to see people that are not looking out for the best for America sponsoring terrorists to come here under the guise of refugees. So be very careful when you hear about this sponsorship program Obama is going to propose, because it's another scam. Down and dirty scam. It's a way to turn around and shut up the rest of us that are saying these refugees are not being vetted properly. You're allowing terrorism to come into the United States. The American public is no longer safe because we have uncontrolled borders. To shut us up, they're going to come up with this refugee sponsorship just to silence us. Be careful, guys. Do not fall for it. That said, that's my rant for the day. We will be back here on Tuesday. We've got Steve Martino. He's a doctor who's written a book. What the heck is the name of his book? The Hidden Reality. It's about the potential devastating consequences of what is occurring today and our path of destruction. He's sending me the book, so I'll be reading it as I hunker down from the hurricane over the weekend, and he'll be joining us on Tuesday. And maybe, Curtis, if you can, reach out to Thuy and see if she can come back on Tuesday. By then, the storm will be past you guys, and everything should be cool. So hopefully we've got between 2:15 and 3 o'clock that we can slip her in. So we'll see if we can get her on. And then next week on Friday, we've got former Lieutenant Governor of Florida, Jennifer Carroll, will be joining us. And those that follow, Stacy on the right, she will be right here. Nice play on words.
Yeah, Stacy Washington. Yeah.
Well, everyone, be careful out there with Hurricane Matthew. Make sure if you are hunkering down, you have enough food, water, and medicine. And my best thing is try to make sure you have enough for 2 weeks. Make sure, if your neighbors are out there, staying there, know who and where they are so you can check on each other. Be careful because certain places are having curfews. We're having a curfew go into effect as of sundown here in our county. Check with your local law enforcement. Check. A lot of them have Facebook pages. They're posting information up on their Facebook pages. Make sure you know where your shelters are. If you do have to leave your home, know what the evacuation routes are. Have a plan. So please be careful out there, and we'll see everyone back here next week, safe and sound. Until then, I want to thank Kel for joining us. Thank you, Curtis, for finally being able to make it here. And be safe, everyone. Until then, I say good night and God bless.
Good night, Annie. Good night, Curtis.
If you like your health care plan, you'll be able to keep your health care plan. Health care plan. Health care plan.
about that's all you long. Political correctness will replace the Bill of Rights. Support religious freedom, let you pray to Jesus Christ. The presence in our pockets doesn't no longer free. You cannot make a move, now that's the end of dignity. Don't expect equality, respect or fair play. The IRS will target those who vote the wrong way. Welcome to the place. Welcome to the place of the left hypocrisy. It'll be counterfeit for you and me. Oh, welcome to the place. Welcome to the face of the new democracy. Here in the land of the not so free. Oh, oh, oh,
This is the most transparent administration in history. Not even a smidgen of corruption.
Fact is, we had 4 dead Americans. What difference at this point does it make?
If you got a business, you didn't build that.